Arlys, we're recording. Go ahead. Tell me about the fair.
Well, my remembrance about the fair, it was getting out of school 3 days in a row because it was always held after school started in September. We practiced. Our school always had a program that we got to sing, and then my sister and I, we sung different duets together, and it was just a time to enjoy community and visiting and friends. And one of the implement companies had a tent up, and they showed Albert and Costello movies all afternoon, and it was fun. We laughed, but it was also hot. And then one night, I remember when we was in high school, we had the popcorn machine under the old tree down there, and it rained. And I'm surprised we're all standing because of the water running through the grounds, and we're standing around electricity. But we had delicious popcorn, and I can't even tell you how much we sold it for. But that was our, I think, money for athletic department. Just a lot of good memories. It's good to come back and see old friends, and neighbors, and school pals. I'm glad it's celebrating its 100th anniversary. Congratulations to the community.
Yeah.
So give me what's your earliest recollection, I guess? Let's start there.
Oh, the earliest, I think, was probably about maybe 62 when I started. And we took all the orders on the outside of the rail that went around the building. And it was just, thank you, Judy. It's nice to see you. It was just the cooks that were inside. The ones that took the orders was outside. You took your own order and you seemed they got that. And you met a lot of people that you would have never dreamed of meeting anyplace else. And my kids always enjoyed the fair. They always felt like it was something that they could go to and could run and play and not have to be, like they were in a net someplace that you want to go this way or that, And because you kids probably did the same thing, you did.
Yes.
And, I don't know. I met an awful lot of people at Vinland. And I had a lady come up to me today, and I still don't know who she was. But she seemed to know me. And, I just, on the whole, I think most of the people in Vinland, they're pretty friendly. There's a few that...
And you may have seen these people once a year, and it's at the fair.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And they always seem to remember who I am and where I'm at in the building now. That's my station.
Very good.
And I love it there. I really do. I love it back there. It's really good.
Thanks, Verdenia.
Uh-huh. What's your name?
I'm Gary.
Gary.
I'm a Lawson.
Lawson?
Lawson. Do you know Roy and
Yes.
and Jean?
Yes.
Lawson's used to be our neighbors.
And I just saw them
They
at the
had a lot of
nursing home the other
children.
day.
They had a lot
Of the fair.
Mm-hmm.
50 years ago and more we came to the fair.
I expect.
Our kids had the turtles, and Bernice Godstein was teaching school here. And so they had turtle races. We rode our ponies from over on, I don't know how far we rode them. We lived in Baldwin. I guess we had them there at the time. We rode the ponies clear out here to Vinland and joined in on the horse show.
Wow.
Elva and Claude had the market over Baldwin. They sold peaches and watermelon, cantaloupe, and had a regular grocery line, wholesale and retail, since 1954.
I think that's when we started. I can't be sure.
And they were still there in the 70s. I don't remember the last final day. And Claude passed away the last day of 202. And so Elva's still staying with it, and she lives in Eudora. And we came to the fair today on the 100th year celebration.
Roll those cigarettes. I remember using those Prince Albert cans, because you would save those, that or a coffee can, and we would go out into the driveway with the spoon and dig up those brown beans from that tree. That was fun.
You were going to raise trees from those.
Yes, I thought I was going to raise a forest. I thought I was going to plant all those, and yes, I did.
Helen, we've been getting videos of a lot of people's recollections of fairs, 100 years worth of fairs, and I know you could tell us a lot about the community that is not fair related, and we'd like to hear that, but in particular the fairs and the Grange.
Well, I didn't know much about the Grange. I didn't ever. I may have belonged to it, but I didn't go to meetings. Woodrow belonged to it for the insurance. Wasn't that what they?
I've heard that comment from several people. We
Uh,
belong for the insurance.
And he went to meetings. But I didn't go. I had David. I suppose we've been married less than 2 years when David came along. And I didn't think a woman with a baby was supposed to go anywhere.
But one of the things, in addition to insurance, that the Grange has given the community was the fair.
Yes.
And I think Woodrow was pretty involved in the fair for a number of years.
I think he was, yes. He was on the fair board. Whatever they did, I don't know.
Well, talking about your memories, I know some of the things that you've shared with me is that you can recall riding to the fair in horse and buggy
Oh, that
with your parents. Now, and one of the things you talked about was the location.
Well, it wasn't where it is now, is all I know. I'm not sure. But it was under a tent on one side of the road, and across the road was where you left your horse and buggy or wagon or however you came. There were very few cars in those days. And in fact, I don't know. I can still remember when my father left home early one morning, kind of dressed up a little bit. He didn't tell me where he was going, I guess. And when he came back, he was driving a shiny Model T Ford, and there was no horse pulling it. And what made it go, I couldn't imagine.
When you would arrive at the fair in the horse and buggy, what type of things would you bring along with you?
Well, we usually always brought a picnic lunch. But now I don't know if my mother and father entered very much in the fair or not. I can't remember that they did.
Would you bring any types of vegetables for show?
They might have. I have no recollection.
But you do remember the picnic lunch.
Yes.
And would you stay the whole day, sometimes overnight? Would people sometimes camp there?
We never did because my parents had to go home and do the milking. That was
Would some people camp?
may have.
They have.
If they came from any distance and didn't have chores that they had to go home to do.
As a child, do you remember seeing any or playing with any friends from the community? Any names of the children that you remember playing with at the fair?
Well, I'm sure that there must have been some other children from Stony Point. I didn't know people all over. See, because of my father's asthma, we went, they had a sale and sold the horses and everything. And we got on a train and went to Bakersfield, California, where my dad had a sister living, because he had the asthma. And we stayed out there. I must have gone to the 5th and 6th and 7th grades. And we moved once from one house to another in Bakersfield. And then the last year out there, I had to go to what they call junior high now, I suppose, because I had to walk a long ways to go to school.
When you came back and moved into the community as a junior high student, do you remember going to the fair then?
Not specifically, but I'm sure we did, because that was, the Vinland Fair was a highlight of the year for everyone.
Were there certain activities that you look forward to?
No, just seeing the displays and the horses and the cattle and the displays of, and canned fruit. I think my mother maybe entered some canned fruit. There'd be jars along one side of the tent or whatever it was. They didn't have the building yet then, I don't think. Anyway, there'd be preserves and canned tomatoes, I don't know.
Were there ribbons given out?
Oh, yes.
Did you ever save any ribbons? Because I know that the ribbons that I had gotten even as a kid, I saved them all as bookmarks. Did you do that?
Maybe I didn't get very many. I don't think I have any of them. I have no recollection of it.
You know, the tractor pull is something I think that our family's always enjoyed about the fair. And I know that Dad has pulled the tractor. Did Grandpa ever pull the tractor in the
Oh,
fair?
yes, I think so. I think he did. I can still remember they have some kind of a sled thing now, but they used to, there was something that men could step on, and they were supposed to tell how much they weighed when they got on, approximately, you know, what they thought they weighed, and so they could tell how much the tractor was pulling. And when it had finally get to where it couldn't pull anymore, why, the tractor stood up on its hind legs with its front wheels just spinning in the air.
So you saw your husband then in the fair pull the tractor, and then your own son.
Yes. Well, I'm not sure if Woodruff pulled the tractor or not. He was on the fair board, and I think maybe he wasn't supposed to pull the tractor. I don't know. But he might have. I'm not. That's been too long.
What about sewing? I know that crafts, sewing, that type of thing is entered in the fair now. When you were a teenager, do you remember anything about that?
Well, there was always sewing things. Now, this is in Vinland. I had to judge a fair when I was teaching at Blue Mound. We didn't have school 2 days, and I didn't get doctoring pay. But he told me the home economics teacher always judged the fair. Always. emphasize always. And so what do? You go judge the fair.
Did you ever judge at the Vinland Fair?
No.
No. Grandma Mary Sturdy, that would be Grandpa's mother.
Yes.
Do you remember when you first started living with them and when you married Grandpa, do you remember her getting ready for the fair? Because I know that she was a big pie baker.
Yes.
So what do you remember about her getting ready for the fair?
Well, I can still see her rolling out pie crust, and she'd have a great big piece of pie crust rolled out there, and she'd put it on a pie plate and trim it off around the edge. And if it was to be a two-crust pie, why, she didn't cut it quite as close, so she left room to grip it at the edge. And if it was a single crust pie, then she had to cut it off and crimp the edge around and prick it in the bottom, being too brown before it got done.
And I'll bet when Woodrow and David and Carol came in and said, "Grandma, I smell pie. I want pie." What did she say? Did she say, "Stay out on my fair pie"?
I think she probably did.
She said, "You can have some of that at the fair."
Well, she always made more than one.
More than one,
So there,
like a good grandma should.
yes.
Yes. You know, I remember a picture of you with high school friends in front of the Vinland High School. It was during fair time. There's corn stalks. It's like you were going to be in some sort of a, I don't know if it's a parade or like a show of crops, because there were corn stalks. And do you remember? It was sort of like a fall festival look to it.
One thing to take to the fair was for the tallest stalk of corn. They planted corn differently then than they do now. They planted with a corn planter, and then it had to be cultivated 3 times before they laid it by. And they had to put wire basket things over the horse's nose so they couldn't bite the tassels off the corn as they went along, because that's what they do. And I can still remember riding in the wagon way up close to the front, and instead of having a lumber wagon, you could put sideboards on, but you didn't put sideboards on the left side of the wagon. You put this one sideboard on the left side, and then you had another board that fit over that one up top, and that was the bang board. So you didn't overthrow the wagon when you threw your corn into the wagon. And Grandpa would be going along, or my father would be going along, shucking the corn, and every once in a while there'd be a stalk that the best ear on the stalk wasn't there. And then there was a man, and I won't say his name, that always had the best 10 years or 25 years or whatever it was at the fair.
Oh my. Well.
Where do you suppose he got them? In somebody else's cornfield.
Oh, there you go.
He was a farmer, but he'd go out and pick out the best ears out of somebody else's corn.
Did you have any other questions?